Maya Jackson stared at the man across the table, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. The restaurant suddenly felt too hot, too small, too everything. The fork in her hand clattered against her plate as recognition washed over her like ice water. Those eyes, that voice, the way he carried himself with such easy confidence. It wasn't just any man sitting across from her, it was Elijah Carter, CEO of Carter Innovations, the very company where she worked as a janitor on the night shift. The same man whose office she cleaned 3 times a week, whose trash she emptied, whose plants she watered when the regular maintenance staff forgot. The man who probably didn't know she existed, yet here he was, looking at her like she was the only person in the room. And she had just spent 15 minutes pouring her heart out to him, thinking he was her blind date, a man named Eric, her friend had set her up with. Maya's mind raced through her options. She could get up and run, pretend she suddenly got sick, or just admit she was at the wrong table with the wrong man. But before she could make her move, his warm hand reached across the table and covered hers. "Please don't leave," he said softly. "I've enjoyed talking with you more than anyone I've met in years." That was the moment Maya Jackson's life changed forever. But she had no idea just how much. "I'm sorry. I think there's been a mistake," Maya finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked around the crowded restaurant, hoping to spot someone who might be her actual blind date, someone looking confused and alone. "I'm supposed to be meeting someone named Eric. My friend Tasha set it up." The tall, handsome man in the perfectly tailored suit smiled at her, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Well, I'm definitely not Eric. But I've been sitting here alone for nearly an hour waiting for a business associate who clearly isn't coming. Then you walked in, sat down, and started talking to me like we were old friends. I didn't have the heart to stop you." Maya wanted to disappear. She had spent the last 15 minutes telling this stranger her boss's boss about her daughter Zoe's school play, her struggles with rent this month, and even how nervous she was about this blind date. The embarrassment was overwhelming. "I should go," Maya said, already reaching for her worn purse. "I'm so sorry to have bothered you." "Please don't," Elijah said again, his voice gentle but firm. "Let me at least buy you dinner for entertaining me. Besides, it looks like your date might be a no-show too." He nodded toward the clock on the wall. Maya had arrived 20 minutes late due to bus delays, which meant her actual date was now almost an hour late if he was coming at all. Maya hesitated. She couldn't afford this restaurant on her own. She had been saving for weeks just to pay for half the meal. As Tasha had insisted, Eric was a good guy who would pick up most of the tab. But having dinner with the CEO of Carter Innovations, the man who could fire her with a snap of his fingers, it seemed like a terrible idea. Yet something in his eyes made her pause. There was a genuine warmth there, a loneliness she recognized because she saw the same look in her own eyes every morning in the mirror. "I really shouldn't," she said, but made no move to leave. "I'm Elijah, by the way," he said, extending his hand across the table. "Elijah Carter." "I know," Maya said before she could stop herself. At his raised eyebrow she quickly added, I'm Maya Jackson." Elijah tilted his head slightly. "Do we know each other, Maya?" She swallowed hard. "Not exactly. I work at Carter Innovations, night shift. I clean the executive offices." Recognition didn't dawn on his face, and Maya wasn't surprised. Why would the CEO notice a night janitor? She was invisible to men like him, just another name on a payroll. "Well, Maya Jackson from Night Shift, it's a pleasure to properly meet you," Elijah said with a smile that seemed to light up his entire face. "And I insist you stay for dinner. Consider it a thank you for keeping my plants alive. I've noticed someone has been watering them when they start to droop." Maya felt her cheeks warm. So he had noticed something she did after all. "That's just part of my job," she said softly. "Above and beyond, I'd say. The regular maintenance crew doesn't bother." He opened the menu. "Now, what would you like to eat?" "Everything here is excellent, but I particularly recommend the cedar plank salmon." Maya glanced down at the menu and immediately felt out of place again. There were no prices listed, which she knew meant everything was too expensive. "Maybe just a salad," she said. Elijah frowned slightly. "Are you sure? The chef here is amazing. At least try an appetizer with me." Before Maya could respond, a server appeared at their table. "Mr. Carter, so good to see you again. Your usual table was unavailable tonight, but I hope this one is satisfactory." "It's perfect, Thomas. Thank you." Elijah responded with easy familiarity. "We'll start with the calamari and the stuffed mushrooms, and bring us a bottle of the Pinot Noir I had last time." "Right away, sir." When the server left, Maya leaned forward. "You didn't have to do that." "Do what?" Elijah asked innocently. "Order for both of us? Order expensive wine." She fidgeted with her napkin. "I can't afford to split this kind of bill." Elijah's expression softened. "Maya, I invited you to stay. This is my treat. No strings attached, no expectations. Just two people who were stood up having dinner together." Maya didn't know what to say. Men like Elijah Carter didn't just have friendly dinners with women like her. There was always an angle, always something they wanted. But as she looked at him, really looked at him, she saw none of the predatory interest she was accustomed to seeing in men's eyes. Instead, she saw genuine interest, maybe even a touch of admiration. "Tell me more about your daughter," Elijah said, surprising her. "Zoe, right? You mentioned she was in a school play?" Maya couldn't help but smile at the mention of her daughter. "Yes, she's playing the lead in her school's production of The Wizard of Oz." As Maya talked about Zoe, she gradually began to relax. Elijah was an attentive listener, asking questions and laughing at the right moments. By the time their appetizers arrived, Maya had almost forgotten who he was almost. "What about you?" she asked as she hesitantly tried a piece of calamari. It was delicious, nothing like the frozen kind she occasionally splurged on at the grocery store. "Do you have kids?" A shadow passed over Elijah's face. "No, I was married once. My ex-wife decided that being married to a man who worked 16-hour days wasn't what she signed up for." "I'm sorry," Maya said, and meant it. Despite his wealth and position, she could see that Elijah Carter was lonely. It was there in the way he kept the conversation going, in the way he seemed genuinely pleased to have company for dinner. "It's fine," he said with a dismissive wave. "It was years ago. The company takes up most of my time anyway." Maya nodded, understanding all too well how work could fill the empty spaces in life. Between her night shift at Carter Innovations and her part-time day job at a local coffee shop, she barely had time for anything else besides Zoe. As they continued to talk through dinner, Maya found herself enjoying Elijah's company more than she had enjoyed anyone's in a long time. He was smart and funny, with none of the arrogance she might have expected from someone in his position. He told her about growing up in a small town in Georgia, about working his way through college, about founding Carter Innovations in his garage with nothing but an idea and determination. By the time dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate cake that Elijah insisted they share, Maya had almost forgotten about her original blind date. She was just checking her watch when a harried-looking man approached their table. "Excuse me, are you Maya?" he asked, looking between her and Elijah with confusion. Maya's heart sank as she realized this must be Eric, her actual blind date. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'm Eric. I am so sorry I'm late. My car broke down, and then my phone died, and it's been a complete nightmare." He glanced at Elijah, clearly confused. I see you found someone else to have dinner with." Before Maya could explain the mix-up, Elijah stood and extended his hand to Eric. "She thought I was you at first, and we ended up having dinner together while waiting. No harm done." Eric shook Elijah's hand, looking slightly dazed. "Eric Thompson, I really am sorry about being so late." Maya looked between the two men, unsure what to do. The evening with Elijah had been surprisingly wonderful, but Eric was her actual date, the one Tasha had been trying to set her up with for weeks. "It's okay," she finally said to Eric. "Things happen." Elijah pulled out his wallet and placed several bills on the table, far more than the meal could have cost. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Maya," he said, his eyes lingering on hers a moment longer than necessary. "Perhaps we'll run into each other again sometime." With that, he nodded to Eric and walked away, leaving Maya with a strange emptiness she couldn't quite explain. She watched him go, wondering if she would ever have a conversation with him again, or if tonight was just a strange dream she would soon wake up from. "So," Eric said as he slid into the seat Elijah had just vacated, "who was that guy?" Maya turned back to him, trying to focus. "Just someone I met tonight," she said softly. "Just someone I met by mistake." But as she sat through an awkward hour with Eric, who was nice enough but couldn't hold a candle to Elijah's charm and intelligence, Maya couldn't help but think that some mistakes might just be the best things that ever happened to you. Maya couldn't sleep. The events of the evening kept replaying in her mind like a movie she couldn't turn off. The way Elijah's eyes had crinkled when he smiled, the sound of his laugh, the fact that the CEO of her company had spent 2 hours talking to her like she was someone worth knowing. She rolled over in bed, glancing at the clock. 3:17 a.m. In less than 12 hours, she would be back at Carter Innovations, pushing her cleaning cart past his office, emptying his trash can, straightening the papers on his desk. Only now, everything felt different. Would he mention their dinner if he saw her? Would he even recognize her in her gray uniform, her hair pulled back, her face free of makeup? Or would he look right through her, the magical evening forgotten as soon as she'd walked away? Maya sighed and got out of bed, careful not to wake Zoe, who was sleeping peacefully in the small bedroom they shared in their tiny apartment. She made her way to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water, looking out the window at the city lights below. Her dinner with Eric after Elijah left had been pleasant enough, but there was no spark, no connection. Eric was a middle school teacher who talked mostly about himself and seemed mildly interested in her only when she mentioned she had a daughter. When he had asked if she wanted to go out again, Maya had made a non-committal comment about checking her schedule. Eric hadn't pushed, and they'd parted with an awkward half-hug outside the restaurant. Now, standing in her dark kitchen, Maya couldn't help but compare the two men. Eric was nice, stable, probably what she should want. But Elijah had made her feel seen in a way no one had in years, maybe ever. "Don't be stupid," she whispered to herself. "Men like Elijah Carter don't end up with women like you." She had seen the women he dated in the Society Pages stall, sophisticated types with expensive clothes and Ivy League educations, not single mothers working 2 jobs to make ends meet, not women who had dropped out of community college when they got pregnant at 19. Maya finished her water and went back to bed, determined to put the evening out of her mind. Tomorrow she would go back to being invisible. The next evening, Maya arrived at Carter Innovations for her shift feeling more nervous than she had on her first day. She changed into her uniform in the small locker room, listening to the chatter of the other cleaning staff. "Did you hear Mr. Carter is back in town?" one of the women was saying. "Marcia saw him coming out of a meeting on the executive floor today." "I heard he fired 3 executives last week," another replied. "Just like that, gone. Man doesn't mess around." Maya kept her head down, not trusting herself to join the conversation without giving something away. She had never participated much in office gossip anyway. She usually worked alone, cleaning the executive suites while most of her colleagues handled the larger open office spaces. "Maya, you're on the executive floor tonight, right?" her supervisor, Gloria, asked as she handed out assignments. "Make sure you give Mr. Carter's office extra attention. Word is he's going to be working late." Maya's heart skipped a beat. "He's here tonight?" Gloria nodded. "That's what I heard. Problem?" "No," Maya said quickly. "No problem." She took her cleaning cart and headed for the elevators, her stomach in knots. Part of her hoped Elijah wouldn't be there, that his office would be empty, as it usually was during her shift. Another part of her, a part she was trying hard to ignore, hoped desperately that he would be. The executive floor was quiet when she arrived, most of the offices dark. Maya worked methodically. Finally, there was nowhere left to clean but his office. The light was on, spilling out into the hallway from under the door. Maya took a deep breath, knocked softly, and waited. "Come in," came his voice, and Maya's heart did another little flip. She pushed the door open slowly, keeping her eyes on her cart. "Evening cleaning," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Maya." The way he said her name made her look up. Elijah was standing behind his desk, his tie loosened, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He looked surprised, but not displeased to see her. "Mr. Carter," she responded, trying to sound professional. "I can come back later if you're busy." "No, please, come in," he gestured to the office. "I could use a break anyway." Maya hesitated, then pushed her cart into the office. She began her usual routine, emptying the trash, wiping down surfaces, straightening things that didn't need straightening all, while acutely aware of Elijah watching her. "How was the rest of your evening?" he asked after a moment. "With Eric?" Maya glanced up, surprised he remembered her date's name. "It was okay," she said with a small shrug. "He was nice." "But not nice enough for a second date?" Elijah asked, a hint of something hope in his voice. Maya smiled despite herself. "I don't think so." Elijah nodded, looking pleased. His loss. They fell into silence again as Maya continued cleaning. She wanted to say something, to ask him why he had stayed for dinner with her, why he had seemed interested in her life, but the words wouldn't come. "Your daughter's play is next week, right?" Elijah asked suddenly. "The Wizard of Oz?" Maya stopped wiping the conference table. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you told me," he said simply. Something warm unfurled in Maya's chest. "Yes, it's next Friday. Zoe's been practicing her lines non-stop. Our neighbors are probably sick of hearing, 'There's no place like home through the walls.'" Elijah laughed, and the sound made Maya smile. "She sounds wonderful," he said. "She is." Maya hesitated, then added, "She's the best thing in my life." Elijah looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You're a good mother," he said finally. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes and quickly looked away. No one ever told her she was a good mother. She tried her best, worked herself to exhaustion to give Zoe everything she needed, but sometimes she lay awake at night wondering if it was enough. "Thank you," she whispered. When she glanced back up, Elijah had moved from behind his desk and was now leaning against it, much closer to her. "Maya," he began, then stopped, seeming unsure of himself for the first time since she'd met him. "Yes?" she prompted when he didn't continue. "Would you like to have dinner with me again?" he asked, the words coming out in a rush, intentionally this time, not by mistake. Maya stared at him, sure she had misheard. "Dinner? With you?" "Yes," Elijah said, looking more confident now. "I enjoyed our conversation last night. I'd like to continue it somewhere we won't be interrupted by late blind dates." Maya's mind raced. Was this a date he was proposing? Or did he just want company for dinner? And did it matter? Either way, she knew what her answer should be. She should politely decline. Tell him it wouldn't be appropriate, given that he was essentially her boss, even if they were worlds apart in the company hierarchy. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said softly. Elijah's face fell slightly. "May I ask why?" "You're the CEO," Maya said, gesturing around the palatial office. "I clean your office at night. People would talk." "I don't care what people say," Elijah replied immediately. "Maybe you don't, but I do," Maya countered. "I need this job, Mr. Carter. I can't afford to be the subject of office gossip." Elijah seemed to consider this. "What if no one knew? We could meet somewhere private, somewhere no one from the company would see us." Maya shook her head, even as a part of her wanted desperately to say yes. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you want to have dinner with me again? There must be 100 women more suitable for you to spend time with." "More suitable?" Elijah repeated, looking genuinely confused. "What does that mean?" "You know what it means," Maya said, feeling suddenly tired. "Women from your world. Educated, sophisticated women who know which fork to use and what wine to order." Elijah took a step toward her. "Maya, I spent the entire evening with you last night, and not once did I think you didn't belong at that table. You are intelligent, kind, funny, and genuine qualities that are far more important to me than knowing about wine pairings." He paused, then added softly, "And for what it's worth, you used all the right forks." Maya couldn't help but laugh at that, even as she felt tears threatening again. "I watched the other diners," she admitted. Elijah smiled. "Smart. See? Intelligent." They looked at each other for a long moment, the air between them charged with something Maya couldn't quite name. She knew she should leave, finish her rounds, keep her distance. But standing here with Elijah, seeing the way he looked at her like she was someone special, someone worth knowing, made it hard to remember all the reasons why this was a bad idea. "One dinner," she found herself saying, "just as friends." The smile that broke across Elijah's face was worth the risk. "Friends." He agreed, though his tone suggested he might have other hopes. "How about Saturday? Do you need to arrange a sitter for Zoe?" The mention of her daughter brought Maya back to reality. "I can't this Saturday," she said. "Zoe has a dress rehearsal for her play, and I promised I'd help with costumes." Instead of looking disappointed, Elijah seemed impressed. "Of course, family comes first. How about next week, after the play?" Maya nodded slowly. "That could work. My mom might be able to watch Zoe." "Perfect," Elijah said. "I know a place where we definitely won't run into anyone from the company. I'll text you the details." He paused. "That is, if you're comfortable sharing your number." Maya hesitated only briefly before reciting her phone number, which Elijah entered into his phone. A moment later, her own phone buzzed in her pocket with a text that simply read, "Elijah Carter." "So I know it's really you," he explained with a small smile. Maya nodded, suddenly feeling shy. "I should get back to work," she said, gesturing to her half-finished cleaning. "Of course," Elijah said, moving back to his desk. Maya finished cleaning his office in record time, hyper-aware of his presence. As she was about to leave, Elijah called her name. "Yes?" she asked, turning back. "I'm glad you sat at the wrong table last night," he said simply. Maya felt a smile spread across her face. "Me too," she admitted, and then she was gone, pushing her cart down the hall, her heart lighter than it had been in years. It wasn't until she was in the elevator that she allowed herself to fully process what had just happened. The CEO of Carter Innovations had asked her out to dinner. Her, Maya Jackson, single mom, night janitor. The woman who had once been told by her ex that she would never amount to anything. As the elevator descended, taking her back to the world she knew, Maya couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in ways she had never dared to dream. For the next week, Maya moved through her days, in a haze of disbelief and anticipation. Each night she cleaned Elijah's office. He was there, waiting for her. Their conversations were brief. A company as large as Carter Innovations didn't run itself, and Elijah was genuinely busy, but he always made time to ask about her day, about Zoe, about the upcoming play. On Thursday night, as Maya was watering the plants in his office, Elijah looked up from his computer with a frown. "Is everything okay?" she asked, noticing the worry lines creasing his forehead. Elijah sighed, rubbing his eyes. "Just work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about." Maya nodded, understanding the boundary. She was still just an employee, after all, not someone he would confide in about company matters. But then Elijah surprised her. "Actually," he said, leaning back in his chair, "I could use a fresh perspective. Do you have a minute?" "Of course," Maya said, setting down her watering can. Elijah gestured to the chair across from his desk, and Maya sat, feeling oddly formal despite the late hour and the fact that they had been planning to have dinner together in just a few days. "I have to make a decision about our cleaning service contracts," Elijah explained. "The board is pushing me to outsource to a cheaper company." Maya felt her heart drop into her stomach. "You're firing the cleaning staff?" "No," Elijah said quickly. "That's the thing. I don't want to. The company we're considering would hire most of the current staff, but at lower wages and with fewer benefits." And I know he looked directly at her, his eyes intense. "I know how hard everyone works. I know many of our cleaning staff have been with the company for years. But $1 million is not insignificant." Maya swallowed hard. This was her life he was talking about, her livelihood. "What does your gut tell you?" she asked quietly. Elijah's eyebrows shot up. "My gut?" "Yes," Maya said, meeting his gaze steadily. "Before the board meeting, before the spreadsheets and presentations, what did you think when you first heard the proposal?" Elijah was quiet for a moment, considering. "I thought it was a bad idea," he finally admitted. "Carter Innovations has always prided itself on how it treats all its employees, not just the executives and engineers. My father," he stopped, then continued more softly, "my father believed that everyone who helped build this company deserved to share in its success, even the night janitors." Maya nodded, touched by his words, but still frightened for her future. "Then maybe that's your answer." "It's not that simple," Elijah sighed. "The board will follow your lead?" Maya interrupted, surprising herself with her boldness. "You're Elijah Carter. This is your company." Elijah looked at her for a long moment, a slow smile spreading across his face. He said, "Most people don't talk to me that way. They tell me what they think I want to hear." Maya shrugged. "You asked for my perspective. That's it. And it's exactly what I needed to hear." Elijah's expression grew serious again. "Thank you, Maya, for being honest." "Always," she said softly. Their eyes held for a moment longer than necessary, and Maya felt that now familiar flutter in her chest. "It's getting late," he said. "You should finish up and get home to Zoe." Maya stood, recognizing the dismissal. "Good night, Mr. Carter." "Elijah," he corrected gently. "At least when we're alone." "Elijah," Maya repeated, liking the way his name felt on her lips. As she closed his office door behind her, Maya leaned against it for a moment, breathing deeply. She had just given career advice to the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company, and he had listened. It was surreal. But more surreal was the growing realization that Elijah Carter wasn't just some fantasy man who had walked into her life by accident. He was becoming someone real to her, someone she cared about. And that was far more terrifying than any job loss could be. Friday evening found Maya backstage at Zoe's elementary school, frantically sewing a loose sequin back onto a Munchkin costume, while Zoe practiced her lines with the drama teacher. "Mom, is Grandma coming tonight?" Zoe asked, bouncing over during a break. Of course she is, baby, Maya assured her, biting off a thread. She wouldn't miss it for anything. And is your friend coming too? Zoe asked with the directness only an 8-year-old could muster. The one you've been talking to Grandma about? Maya felt her cheeks warm. She hadn't told Zoe about Elijah. How could she explain that the CEO of her company had asked her to dinner? But apparently her mother had overheard some of their phone conversations over the past week. No, honey, he's not coming tonight, Maya said gently. This is your special night. I just want to focus on you. Zoe seemed satisfied with this answer and skipped back to her teacher, her Dorothy dress swishing around her legs. Maya watched her go with a smile, amazed as always by her daughter's confidence and joy. The school auditorium filled quickly, parents and siblings and grandparents all filing in with cameras and flowers. Maya gave Zoe one last hug before finding her seat next to her mother in the third row. She's going to be wonderful, her mother said, squeezing Maya's hand. I know, Maya agreed. She's been practicing non-stop. The lights dimmed, and the principal came out to welcome everyone to the performance. As he spoke, Maya felt her phone vibrate in her purse. She ignored it at first, but when it buzzed again a minute later, she discreetly checked it. 2 texts from Elijah. Break a leg to Zoe tonight. And then, do people say that to 8-year-olds? Either way, I'm sure she'll be amazing. Maya smiled down at her phone, warmth spreading through her chest. She quickly typed back, Thank you. I'll tell her you said so. Her mother gave her a knowing look. Is that him? She whispered. Maya nodded, putting her phone away as the curtain began to rise. I'll tell you about it later, she promised. The play was everything an elementary school production could be: endearing, slightly chaotic, and utterly charming. Zoe, of course, was perfect in Maya's eyes, delivering her lines with confidence and even remembering to click her heels together 3 times during the finale. As the audience applauded and the children took their bows, Maya felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned, expecting to see another parent, and instead found herself looking up at Elijah Carter. Elijah! She gasped, loud enough that several people turned to look. What are you doing here? He smiled down at her, looking decidedly out of place in the elementary school auditorium in his tailored suit. I hope you don't mind, he said. I wanted to see the famous Zoe in action. She was wonderful, by the way. Maya was speechless. Before she could find her voice, her mother leaned across her, extending her hand to Elijah. You must be the friend Maya's been talking about, she said with a smile that was a little too knowing for Maya's comfort. Elijah Carter, he replied, shaking her hand. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Jackson. Please, call me Evelyn, her mother insisted. Any friend of Maya's is a friend of mine. Maya wanted to sink into her seat and disappear. This was not how she had planned to introduce Elijah to her family, not that she had been planning to introduce him at all. They had agreed to have dinner together, that was all. It wasn't a relationship. It wasn't anything yet. Mom, Maya said in a low voice, can you go check on Zoe, see if she's ready to come out yet? Her mother gave her a look that said she knew exactly what Maya was doing but nodded anyway. Of course, dear. Lovely to meet you, Elijah. I'm sure we'll see each other again soon. When her mother was gone, Maya turned to Elijah. I can't believe you're here, she said, still shocked. Are you angry? He asked, looking suddenly uncertain. No, Maya said quickly. No, not angry, just surprised, and a little confused. How did you even know where the play was? Elijah looked sheepish. You mentioned it was at West Side Elementary when we were talking on Tuesday. I may have called the school to confirm the time. Maya stared at him, not sure whether to be flattered or alarmed by his initiative. That's thorough of you. Too much? He asked, seeming genuinely concerned. Maya thought about it for a moment, then shook her head. No, she said finally. The relief on Elijah's face was palpable. I brought something for Zoe, he said, pulling a small wrapped package from his jacket pocket. A congratulations gift. Is that okay? Maya hesitated. She was careful about who she let into Zoe's life, especially men. Her daughter had been hurt enough by her father's abandonment. Maya didn't want her getting attached to someone else who might disappear. What is it? She asked. Just a book, Elijah said. The Complete Oz series by L. Frank Baum. I loved them when I was a kid. The thoughtfulness of the gift touched Maya. It wasn't extravagant or showy, just a simple, perfect gift for a little girl who had just played Dorothy. She'll love it, Maya said softly. Thank you. Before they could say more, Zoe came bounding out from backstage, still in her Dorothy costume, her face alight with excitement. Mom, Grandma said I was the best Dorothy ever. Maya knelt down to hug her daughter. You absolutely were, baby. I'm so proud of you. As they embraced, Maya was acutely aware of Elijah standing nearby, watching them with a gentle smile on his face. When Zoe pulled back from the hug, she noticed him too, looking up at him curiously. Are you Mom's friend? She asked directly. Elijah knelt down to her level, his expensive suit touching the auditorium floor without a second thought. I am, he said, offering his hand to Zoe. My name is Elijah. You were amazing up there, Dorothy. Zoe giggled and shook his hand. Thank you. Are you Mom's boyfriend? Maya felt her face flame. Zoe, she admonished gently, that's not. Not yet, Elijah interrupted smoothly, his eyes twinkling. But I'm working on it. Zoe nodded, as if this was perfectly reasonable. Good. Mom needs someone to make her smile. She doesn't smile enough. Maya wanted to disappear through the floor. Zoe, honey, let's not. I agree completely, Elijah said, his eyes never leaving Maya's face. Your mom has a beautiful smile. Maya's mother returned then, saving her from having to respond. There's my star, Evelyn exclaimed, embracing Zoe. You were absolutely wonderful, sweetheart. While Zoe basked in her grandmother's praise, Elijah leaned closer to Maya. I'm sorry if I overstepped, he whispered. I can go if you'd prefer. Maya looked up at him, at the genuine concern in his eyes, and found she didn't want him to leave. No, she said softly. Stay. We usually go for ice cream after these things. Would you like to join us? The smile that spread across Elijah's face made her heart skip a beat. I'd love to, he said. Then he handed her the wrapped package. For Zoe, when you think the time is right. Maya took the gift, their fingers brushing briefly. Thank you, she said, and meant it for more than just the book. As they gathered Zoe's things and headed out to the parking lot, Maya couldn't help but notice the curious glances from other parents. She knew what they were thinking. What was a man like Elijah Carter doing with Maya Jackson and her daughter? The same question she'd been asking herself all week. But watching Elijah chat easily with Zoe about her performance, seeing the way he held the door for her mother, Maya found she didn't care what anyone else thought. For this moment at least, she would allow herself to enjoy the fantasy even if that's all it was. The ice cream shop was crowded with families celebrating the play's success. Maya watched as Elijah navigated the chaos with surprising ease. Helping Zoe decide between chocolate and strawberry, she chose both, finding them a table in the corner, and even remembering to ask for extra napkins. You're good with kids, Maya observed, as Elijah helped Zoe wipe ice cream from her chin. I have nieces and nephews, he explained. My sister's children. They're a bit older than Zoe now, but I remember these days well. Maya's mother, who had been watching their interaction with interest, leaned forward. So, Elijah, Maya tells me you work at the same company? Maya nearly choked on her ice cream. She hadn't told her mother anything about Elijah beyond his name, and that they had met recently. Yes, Elijah said smoothly, seeming unbothered by the question. Though we're in different departments. Very different, Maya murmured, earning a small smile from Elijah. "And what do you do there?" Evelyn pressed. Maya shot her mother a warning look, but Elijah answered before she could intervene. "I'm in management," he said simply, downplaying his role in a way that made Maya grateful. "But Maya's work is more important than mine. Without her, the whole place would fall apart." Zoe, who had been happily focused on her ice cream, looked up with interest. "My mom's important? What does she do?" Elijah glanced at Maya, who gave him a small nod. "Your mom makes sure everything runs smoothly," he told Zoe. "She takes care of things that most people don't even think about, but without her, nothing would work right." Zoe beamed, clearly pleased with this description of her mother's job. "That sounds important," she agreed. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. No one had ever described her work that way before, not even herself. She had always seen it as just a job, something she did to pay the bills. But the way Elijah talked about it made it sound valuable, necessary. "It is important," Elijah said firmly, his eyes meeting Maya's over Zoe's head. The evening continued pleasantly, with Zoe regaling them all with stories from backstage and Elijah listening with genuine interest. By the time they finished their ice cream, Maya's mother was thoroughly charmed by Elijah, and Zoe was treating him like an old friend. "I should get going," Elijah said eventually, checking his watch. "I have an early meeting tomorrow." "On Saturday?" Maya asked, surprised. Elijah nodded. "The joys of being in management," he said with a wry smile. "But it was absolutely worth it to see the play and meet your family." As they walked to the parking lot, Evelyn whispered to Maya, "He's a keeper," loud enough for Elijah to hear. Maya felt her face flame again, but Elijah just smiled, seeming pleased by the assessment. "Grandma's right," Zoe chimed in, taking Elijah's hand as they crossed the parking lot. "You should come over for dinner sometime. Mom makes really good spaghetti." "Zoe," Maya began, but Elijah was already responding. "I'd love to try your mom's spaghetti sometime," he said, giving Maya a questioning look. "If she's willing to cook for me." Maya didn't know what to say. This was all moving so fast, too fast. They hadn't even had their planned dinner yet, and already her family was inviting him over like he was her boyfriend. Sensing her hesitation, Elijah smoothly changed the subject. "But first, I think your mom and I have a dinner date planned for next week. Right, Maya?" Maya nodded, grateful for the save. "Right, Tuesday." "Tuesday," Elijah confirmed, his eyes warm. "I'm looking forward to it." They reached Evelyn's car first. After Zoe was safely buckled in the back seat, Maya's mother hugged her goodbye, then surprised Elijah by hugging him too. "Take care of my girl," she whispered, not quite quietly enough for Maya to miss. "Mom," Maya protested, but Elijah just smiled. "I'll do my best," he promised. When her mother and Zoe had driven away, Maya turned to Elijah, suddenly feeling shy. "I'm sorry about my family," she said. "They can be a bit much." "They're wonderful," Elijah said sincerely. "Just like you." They stood in the parking lot, the night air cool around them, neither quite ready to say goodbye. "Thank you for coming tonight," Maya said finally. It meant a lot to Zoe. "And to you?" Elijah asked, taking a step closer. Maya looked up at him, at the hope in his eyes, and found she couldn't lie. "Yes," she admitted, "to me too." Elijah smiled, his hand reaching out to brush a strand of hair from her face. "Good," he said softly, "because I meant what I said to Zoe. I'm working on it." Before Maya could respond, he leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her cheek. "Good night, Maya," he whispered, his breath warm against her skin. "Good night," she managed. She watched as he walked to his Cara-sleek, expensive vehicle that reminded her just how different their worlds were. As he drove away, Maya touched her cheek where his lips had been, wondering if she was making a huge mistake by letting Elijah Carter into her life. But as she drove home in her 12-year-old Honda, she couldn't stop smiling. The weekend passed in a blur of normal life: laundry, grocery shopping, helping Zoe with homework. Maya didn't hear from Elijah, and she told herself it was fine, that he was busy. But when she arrived at work on Monday night, she found a small vase of flowers on her cleaning cart with a note that simply read, "Looking forward to tomorrow." The gesture made her smile all night, even as she carefully hid the flowers in her locker, away from curious eyes. Tuesday evening came, and Maya found herself more nervous than she had been for any date in her life. She had called in a favor from a friend to cover her shift at Carter Innovations, claiming a family emergency. She hated lying, but she couldn't very well tell her supervisor she was going on a date with the CEO. Elijah had texted her the address of a small, upscale restaurant in a neighboring town far enough away from Carter Innovations that they were unlikely to run into anyone they knew. Maya had spent her last free dollars on a simple black dress that her mother assured her was perfect, elegant, but not trying too hard. As she applied her makeup, Maya couldn't help but wonder what she was doing. Was she setting herself up for heartbreak? Was Elijah just bored, looking for a temporary distraction? Or was there actually something real happening between them? "You look pretty, Mom," Zoe said from the doorway of the bathroom. "Like a princess." Maya smiled at her daughter's reflection in the mirror. "Thank you, baby. Are you sure you're okay with staying at Grandma's tonight?" Zoe nodded. "I like Grandma's house. She lets me stay up late and watch movies." "Just one movie," Maya reminded her. "And in bed by 9, no matter what Grandma says." Zoe rolled her eyes dramatically. "Fine, but you have to tell me all about your date when you get home." Maya turned to face her daughter, surprised. "How do you know it's a date?" "Because you're wearing lipstick," Zoe said matter-of-factly. "You only wear lipstick for special things." Maya laughed, amazed as always by her daughter's perception. "It is a date," she admitted, "with Elijah, the man from the ice cream shop." "I know," Zoe said with a grin. "Grandma told me. She says he's handsome and has good manners." "Grandma talks too much," Maya muttered, but she was smiling. An hour later, Maya was seated across from Elijah at a small table in the corner of a restaurant, far nicer than anywhere she'd ever been. The lighting was low, the music soft, and the prices on the menu made her eyes widen. "You look beautiful," Elijah said, his eyes taking in her dress, her carefully styled hair, truly stunning. Maya felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. You look nice too." It was an understatement. In his tailored suit, Elijah looked like he had just stepped off the cover of a magazine. "How's Zoe?" he asked as they settled into their seats. "Still basking in the glow of her theatrical success?" Maya smiled, grateful for the easy topic. "She's already planning her next performance. She wants to be Annie now." "She has ambition," Elijah noted. "Like her mother." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What makes you think I have ambition?" "The way you talk about Zoe," Elijah said thoughtfully. "The way you work 2 jobs to give her opportunities. The way you challenge me in my office when most people would just agree with whatever I say." Maya hadn't thought of herself as ambitious before. Desperate, maybe. Determined. She liked the way Elijah saw her not as a struggling single mom, but as a woman with dreams and drive. "I just want what's best for Zoe," she said simply. "And what about what's best for Maya?" Elijah asked, his voice soft. The question caught her off guard. "I don't know," she admitted. "I haven't thought about that in a long time." Elijah reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Maybe it's time you did." The waiter arrived then to take their orders, and Maya was grateful for the interruption. Elijah's intensity was overwhelming sometimes, making her feel things she wasn't sure she was ready to feel. As they ate, they talked about everything and nothing: Elijah's childhood in Georgia, Maya's dreams of going back to school someday, their shared love of old movies. Maya found herself laughing more than she had in years, relaxing into the evening despite her initial nervousness. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said as they shared a dessert, a decadent chocolate cake similar to the one they'd had on their first accidental date. "Anything," Elijah replied. "Why me?" The question had been burning inside her for days. Of all the women you could be having dinner with tonight, why am I sitting here? Elijah set down his fork, his expression serious. "When you sat down at my table that night, you talked to me like I was just a person. Not a CEO, not a Carter, just a man. Do you know how rare that is in my life?" He paused, reaching for her hand again. "And then you told me about Zoe, about your struggles, about your dreams, and I saw such strength in you, such honesty. I wanted to know more." Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. "But we're so different," she whispered. "Our worlds, our lives. Are they really so different?" Elijah challenged gently. "We both work too hard. We both value family. We both want connection." He squeezed her hand. "I don't care about our different backgrounds, Maya. I care about who you are." Maya wanted desperately to believe him, but years of disappointment had taught her to be cautious. What happens when people at work find out? When your board members discover you're dating the night janitor? "First of all," Elijah said firmly, "you are not the night janitor. There's a difference." He leaned forward. "And second, I don't answer to the board about my personal life. I answer to myself." "It's not that simple," Maya protested. "People will talk." "Let them," Elijah said with a shrug. "Maya, I've spent my entire adult life worrying about what other people think, investors, board members, the press. For once, I want to do something simply because it makes me happy." The sincerity in his voice made Maya's chest ache. No one had ever spoken to her like this before, made her feel so valued, so wanted. "But I need to know," Elijah continued, his voice softening. "Do I make you happy too? Or am I pushing something that isn't there?" Maya looked at him, really looked at him. Not at the expensive suit or the powerful CEO, but at the man who had come to her daughter's school play, who had described her work as important, who was looking at her now with hope and vulnerability in his eyes. "Yes," she said softly, "you make me happy." The smile that spread across Elijah's face was like sunrise breaking through clouds. "Then that's all that matters," he said. "The rest we can figure out together." As they left the restaurant, Elijah's hand resting lightly on her lower back, Maya felt a sense of possibility she hadn't experienced in years. Maybe, just maybe, this impossible thing could work. Elijah drove her home, insisting it was too late for her to take the bus. When they reached her apartment building, a modest complex in a working-class neighborhood, Maya felt a moment of embarrassment. It was a far cry from wherever Elijah lived. But if he was judging her home, it didn't show on his face. "Let me walk you to your door," he said, turning off the engine. At her door, Maya turned to face him, suddenly shy again. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "For everything." "Can I see you again?" Elijah asked, his voice low. "Properly, I mean. Not just at work." Maya nodded. "I'd like that." Elijah stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her cheek. "Maya," he whispered, "I'm going to kiss you now. Is that okay?" Her heart hammering in her chest, Maya whispered back, "Yes." His lips met hers, gentle at first, then with growing intensity. Maya felt herself melting into him, her arms wrapping around his neck as his hands settled on her waist, pulling her closer. It was perfect. This moment, this kiss, everything she had dreamed about and more. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Elijah rested his forehead against hers. "I've been wanting to do that since you walked into the restaurant that first night," he admitted. Maya smiled. "Even when you thought I was crazy for sitting at your table and talking to a complete stranger?" "Especially then," he laughed. You were so beautiful when you realized your mistake. All wide eyes and apologies. Maya groaned. Don't remind me. It was mortifying. It was perfect, Elijah corrected, kissing her lightly again. The best mistake of my life. They said goodnight with reluctance, Elijah promising to call her the next day. As Maya watched him drive away, she touched her lips, still tingling from his kiss, and allowed herself to hope that maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. For the next few weeks, Maya lived in a happy bubble. She and Elijah settled into a routine of sorts. She would still clean his office during her shifts, but now their brief conversations were charged with shared secrets and stolen glances. On her nights off, they would meet for dinner in out-of-the-way restaurants, or for coffee in quiet cafes where they wouldn't be recognized. Zoe had taken to Elijah immediately, especially after he had presented her with the Oz books. She was slowly making her way through them, proudly reporting her progress to Elijah whenever he called. He had even come over for Maya's famous spaghetti dinner, sitting at their small kitchen table like he belonged there, helping Zoe with her math homework while Maya cooked. It was domestic and sweet and terrifying all at once. Maya kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Elijah to realize that their worlds were too different, that she wasn't enough for someone like him. But Elijah showed no signs of growing tired of her or their arrangement. If anything, he seemed more invested with each passing day, finding more reasons to be part of her life, more ways to show her he cared. The only cloud in her otherwise sunny sky was the knowledge that their relationship was still a secret from everyone at Carter Innovations. Maya had told only her mother and her closest friend Tasha. Elijah hadn't told anyone as far as she knew. They were careful not to arrive or leave together, never to touch or show familiarity at work, to keep their texts and calls limited to her off hours. It was necessary, Maya knew, but also exhausting. On a rare Friday night when Maya wasn't working, Gloria had switched her shift to cover a colleague's emergency. Elijah had suggested they go out to dinner and a movie, like normal people do. Maya had agreed eagerly, looking forward to a date night that didn't involve hiding in a corner booth. They had just finished dinner and were walking toward the movie theater, hand in hand, when Maya heard someone call Elijah's name. Elijah! Elijah Carter, is that you? They both turned to see a well-dressed couple approaching them. The woman, tall and elegant in designer clothes, was waving enthusiastically. The man beside her, equally polished, looked vaguely familiar to Maya, though she couldn't place him. Jennifer, Robert. Elijah greeted them, his smile tight. What a surprise. We just finished dinner at Le Bistro, the woman Jennifer explained. Robert has been dying to try it since they got that new chef. Her eyes slid to Maya, curiosity evident. Aren't you going to introduce us to your friend? Maya felt Elijah's hand tighten on hers. Of course, he said smoothly. Jennifer and Robert Daniels, this is Maya Jackson. Maya smiled, extending her free hand. Nice to meet you. Maya and I are just heading to catch a movie, Elijah added, clearly trying to end the conversation. But Jennifer wasn't ready to let them go. Maya Jackson, she repeated, as if testing the name. Have we met before? You look so familiar. Maya shook her head. I don't think so. Maya works at Carter Innovations, Elijah said, and Maya felt her heart stop. Was he really going to tell these people who were clearly part of his social circle that she was a janitor? Oh, Jennifer's eyes widened. Are you in marketing? Robert and I were just at that charity gala last month where your team presented those wonderful new ads. Before Maya could respond, Elijah jumped in. Maya is in our facilities maintenance department. She ensures everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Maya felt a mixture of relief and disappointment. Relief that he hadn't announced she was a janitor. disappointment that he seemed hesitant to be fully honest about her role. "How interesting," Jennifer said, her smile faltering slightly. "Well, we won't keep you from your movie. So lovely to meet you, Maya." "You too," Maya murmured. As the couple walked away, Maya could hear Jennifer whisper to her husband, "Facilities maintenance? Isn't that a fancy way of saying cleaning staff?" Elijah's jaw tightened, but he said nothing until the couple was out of earshot. "I'm sorry about that," he said quietly. "It's fine," Maya replied, "though it wasn't really. Let's just go see the movie." But the mood of the evening was broken. Throughout the film, Maya couldn't stop thinking about the encounter, about the look on Jennifer's face when she realized how Maya was, about Elijah's careful wording, neither a lie nor the full truth. When Elijah drove her home later, the silence between them was heavy with unspoken thoughts. "You're upset," Elijah finally said as they parked outside her apartment. "I'm not upset," Maya said automatically. Then, realizing she was lying, she sighed. "Because of Jennifer and Robert?" Elijah asked. "They're not important, Maya. They're just people I know from charity events." "It's not them," Maya said, turning to face him. "It's us. This whole situation, sneaking around, hiding who I am, who we are to each other. I feel like your dirty little secret." Elijah flinched, as if she'd slapped him. "That's not what this is." "Isn't it?" Maya challenged. "Would you have introduced me the same way if I was an executive? If I had a fancy degree and an office on your floor?" "That's not fair," Elijah protested. "I introduced you by your name, as the woman I'm dating. What more did you want me to say?" "I wanted you to be proud of who I am," Maya said, tears threatening. "All of who I am, not just the parts that are easier to explain to your friends." Elijah ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "Maya, I am proud of you. I think you're amazing. But we both agreed to keep our relationship private for now, especially at work." "What was I supposed to do?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. I don't want to live like this forever, Elijah. Hiding, pretending, worrying about who might see us together." Elijah reached for her hand. "It won't be forever," he promised. "Just until we figure things out." "Figure what out exactly?" Maya asked. "When will be the right time for people to know about us? A month from now? A year? Never?" "I don't know," Elijah admitted. "But I do know that what we have is real. It's important to me. You're important to me." Maya wanted to believe him, wanted desperately to lean into his words and let them wash away her doubts. But the incident had brought all her insecurities rushing back. She whispered, "Stolen moments and careful introductions?" Elijah's expression softened, and he reached out to cup her cheek. "Maya, look at me." When she met his eyes, he continued, "I am falling in love with you. Not just parts of you, all of you. The way you care for Zoe, the way you stand up to me when I need it, your strength, your kindness, everything." Maya's breath caught. It was the first time either of them had mentioned love. "Elijah, I know it's complicated," he went on. "Our situations, our backgrounds, none of it makes sense on paper. But when I'm with you, everything makes sense, and I'm willing to figure out the rest as we go along." He leaned in, kissing her softly. "Just be patient with me," he whispered against her lips. "We'll get there." Maya kissed him back, letting his words soothe her troubled heart. Maybe he was right. Maybe all they needed was time. But as she watched him drive away later, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that time wasn't the only thing standing between them and a real future together. Monday morning dawned gray and rainy, matching Maya's mood. The weekend had been strained, with Elijah caught up in work emergencies, and Maya nursing her lingering doubts. They had texted but not seen each other, the first weekend apart since they'd started dating. As Maya rode the bus to her coffee shop job, her phone buzzed with a text from Tasha. "Call me ASAP!" Concerned, Maya called as soon as she arrived at work, slipping into the break room before her shift started. "What's wrong?" she asked when Tasha answered. "Is everything okay?" "You tell me," Tasha replied, her voice unusually serious. "There are rumors flying all over Carter Innovations this morning." Maya's stomach dropped. "What kind of rumors?" "About you and the CEO," Tasha said bluntly. "Someone saw you two out on Friday night and started talking. It's all over the building." Maya closed her eyes, leaning against the wall for support. "What are they saying?" Tasha hesitated. "It's not good, Maya. They're saying you're sleeping your way to a promotion, that he's just using you. The usual nasty stuff people say when they can't mind their own business." "Great," Maya muttered. "Just great." "Is it true?" Tasha asked suddenly. "I mean, I know you've been seeing someone new, but you never said it was Elijah Carter." "The Elijah Carter." Maya sighed. She had kept the details vague even with Tasha, partly because it all still felt so surreal. "Yes," she admitted. "We've been dating for about a month." "Holy shit!" Tasha breathed. "Maya, wow, how did this happen?" "It's a long story," Maya said, glancing at the clock. "One I don't have time for right now. My shift is about to start." "Well, you might want to prepare yourself for tonight," Tasha warned. "People are talking, a lot." After hanging up, Maya went through her coffee shop shift in a daze, messing up orders and earning concerned looks from her manager. All she could think about was what awaited her at Carter Innovations that evening. Would people treat her differently? Would they say things to her face, or just whisper behind her back? And what about Elijah? Did he know about the rumors yet? How would he handle it? By the time she arrived at Carter Innovations for her night shift, Maya was a bundle of nerves. She changed into her uniform quickly, keeping her head down, but she could still feel eyes on her, hear the whispers as she passed. "That's her," someone said, not bothering to lower their voice. "The one sleeping with the boss." Maya flinched but kept walking, her face burning with humiliation. This was exactly what she had feared, what she had warned Elijah about, being reduced to nothing more than a scandal, a piece of gossip for people to dissect. When she reached the executive floor, it was quieter, most of the offices dark, but Elijah's light was on, spilling out into the hallway just like the first night he had asked her to dinner. Maya hesitated outside his door. Should she knock? Should she pretend nothing was wrong? Should she even be here at all? Before she could decide, the door opened, and there was Elijah, looking as troubled as she felt. "Maya," he said, relief evident in his voice. She followed him into his office, closing the door behind her. "You've heard the rumors," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Elijah confirmed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as a sign of his frustration. "My assistant told me this morning. Apparently, Jennifer Daniels couldn't wait to spread the news that Elijah Carter was dating the cleaning lady." The way he said it, with such disgust, made Maya flinch. "And that's so terrible?" she asked quietly. "What?" "No, of course not," Elijah said quickly, moving closer to her. "I'm disgusted by the gossip, not by us." Maya wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm office. "What are we going to do?" Elijah sighed. "I don't know yet. I've been thinking about it all day." He reached for her, but Maya stepped back, keeping distance between them. "Maybe this was a mistake," she whispered, the words painful even as she said them. "Maybe we were fooling ourselves, thinking this could work." "Don't say that," Elijah pleaded. "Maya, I meant what I said on Friday. I'm falling in love with you. That hasn't changed just because some bored socialite decided to gossip." "But it's not just gossip anymore," Maya pointed out. "It's affecting our lives, our work. People are looking at me differently, talking about me like I'm nothing." "Then we'll face it together," Elijah said firmly. "We'll make a statement, set the record straight." Maya stared at him. "A statement? Like a press release about your love life?" If that's what it takes, Elijah said with a shrug. Maya, I'm not ashamed of us. I never have been. Then why have we been hiding? Maya challenged. Why all the secrecy, the out-of-the-way restaurants, the careful introductions? Elijah hesitated, and in that pause, Maya felt her heart crack. Because you weren't ready, he finally said, but his voice lacked conviction. Don't put this on me, Maya said, anger flaring. We both know the truth. You weren't ready for the world to know you were dating someone like me. That's not true, Elijah protested. But Maya could see the struggle in his eyes, the part of him that knew she was right, fighting with the part that wanted to deny it. Isn't it? Maya pressed. Be honest with me, Elijah. If I was a lawyer, or a doctor, or an executive, would we still be hiding? Would you have introduced me the same way to your friends? Elijah was quiet for a long moment, and his silence was answer enough. I think I should go, Maya said softly, tears threatening to spill over. I have my rounds to finish. Maya, please, Elijah said, reaching for her again. Don't leave like this. We can figure this out. I don't think we can, Maya replied, her voice breaking. I'm not ashamed of you. Elijah insisted, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. I'm ashamed of myself for not being brave enough to stand up to people like Jennifer Daniels, for caring what they think. His honesty caught Maya off guard. She had expected denials, excuses, not this raw vulnerability. I've spent my whole life trying to live up to my father's legacy, Elijah continued, his voice low and intense. Being the perfect CEO, making the right connections, fitting into this world of power and privilege that never really felt like mine. And then I met you, and for the first time I felt like I could just be me. But I've been a coward, Maya. I've been afraid to let those worlds collide. Maya felt her anger softening. Just a little. I understand fear, she said. I'm scared too. Scared of being hurt, of Zoe being hurt. Scared of giving my heart to someone who might not be able to handle everything that comes with loving someone like me. Elijah moved closer, and this time Maya didn't back away. I want to try, he said softly. I want to be brave enough for you, for us. Maya looked up at him, wanting desperately to believe, but still hesitant. Let me think, Elijah said, taking her hands in his. Give me a day to figure out how to handle this. One day, Maya, and then, if you still want to walk away, I'll respect your decision. Maya was quiet for a long moment, weighing his words against the pain in her heart. She finally agreed. But Elijah, I can't keep working here with everyone whispering about me. I understand, he said, squeezing her hands. Take tomorrow off, paid leave. And Maya, he paused, his eyes holding hers. Whatever happens, know that what I feel for you is real. The most real thing in my life right now. Maya nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. She pulled her hands gently from his and turned to leave, feeling his eyes on her back until the door closed behind her. Somehow she made it through her shift, keeping her head down and her eyes dry. But when she got home, she let the tears come, crying silently into her pillow so as not to wake Zoe. She cried for the beautiful dream that had been her relationship with Elijah, for the harsh reality that had intruded, for the heart she feared was about to be broken all over again. Maya spent the next day in a state of suspended animation, waiting. She took Zoe to school, cleaned her already spotless apartment, and checked her phone every few minutes, though she wasn't sure what she was expecting. A text? A call? A formal letter of resignation from her own relationship? By afternoon, she couldn't stand being alone with her thoughts any longer. She called Tasha, who came over immediately with ice cream and a shoulder to cry on. So it's true then? Tasha asked as they sat on Maya's small couch. You and the CEO? Maya nodded, pushing her ice cream around in her bowl. It was wonderful, Tasha. He's wonderful. Nothing like what you'd expect from someone in his position. But, Tasha prompted gently, But our worlds are too different, Maya sighed. He says he's not ashamed of me, of us, but his actions tell a different story. Tasha frowned. What exactly did he do? Maya explained about the encounter with Jennifer and Robert, about the careful way Elijah had introduced her, about the rumors now swirling through Carter Innovations. So basically, he introduced you as a facilities maintenance person, which is literally your job title, and now you're mad because you think he's ashamed of you? Put that way, it did sound a bit ridiculous. It's not just that, Maya defended. It's the whole secrecy thing, the hiding, the feeling like I'm his dirty little secret. Did he ever actually say he wanted to keep your relationship secret because he was embarrassed by you? Tasha pressed. Or did you both agree it was better to be private at first, given that he's your boss's boss's boss? Maya frowned. Well, we both agreed, but… And has he ever been anything but respectful and caring toward you and Zoe? No, but… And did he straight up tell you yesterday that he's falling in love with you? Maya's frown deepened. You're supposed to be on my side, Tasha. Tasha laughed. I am on your side, which is why I'm making you think about this clearly. Look, I'm not saying the situation isn't complicated. It is. But it sounds to me like you're both scared for different reasons, and instead of talking it out, you're ready to walk away. Maya sighed, setting down her ice cream bowl. Maybe you're right, but the rumors at work, the way people are looking at me now, I don't know if I can handle that. People are always going to talk, Tasha said with a shrug. The question is Elijah worth it? Before Maya could answer, her phone rang. She grabbed it, her heart racing when she saw Elijah's name on the screen. It's him, she whispered to Tasha, who immediately stood up. I'll give you some privacy, Tasha said, heading for the kitchen. But Maya, just listen to him, okay, before you decide anything. Maya took a deep breath and answered the call. Hello? Maya. Elijah's voice was warm, relieved. I'm glad you answered. Can we talk in person? I'd like to pick you up, if that's okay. Now? Maya asked, glancing at the clock. If possible, Elijah said. It's important. Maya hesitated. I need to get Zoe from school in an hour. Perfect, Elijah replied. I'll pick you up in 15 minutes, we'll talk, and then we can get Zoe together, if that's all right with you. The idea of Elijah accompanying her to pick up Zoe, of being seen with him at her daughter's school, felt significant somehow, like a statement. Okay, she agreed. 15 minutes. After hanging up, Maya quickly changed into a fresh outfit and ran a brush through her hair. Tasha watched her with a knowing smile. So you're giving him a chance to explain? Maya nodded. I'm going to listen. That's all I'm promising. Exactly 15 minutes later, Elijah's car pulled up outside her apartment. Maya said goodbye to Tasha and went downstairs, her stomach in knots. Elijah stepped out of the car when he saw her, opening the passenger door with a smile that was both nervous and hopeful. Thank you for seeing me, he said as she approached. Maya nodded, sliding into the passenger seat without comment. When Elijah got in beside her, he didn't start the car immediately. Instead, he turned to face her. Before we go anywhere, there's something I need to say, he began. I made a mistake, Maya. Not in being with you, that's the best decision I've ever made. My mistake was caring what other people might think, about being afraid to be open about us. Maya stayed silent, listening as he had asked her to do. I've spent all day thinking about what you said, about whether I would have acted differently if you were a doctor or a lawyer, Elijah continued. And the honest answer is, yes, I probably would have. Not because I value you any less, but because I've been conditioned my whole life to care about appearances, about what's appropriate for someone in my position. He reached for her hand, and after a slight hesitation, Maya let him take it. But that's my problem, not yours, he said earnestly. And I'm done letting it dictate how I live my life, who I love. The word love hung in the air between them, charged and powerful. "Love," Maya repeated softly. "Yes, love," Elijah confirmed, his voice steady now. "I love you, Maya Jackson, all of you, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore to anyone who asks." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "Elijah, you don't have to say it back," he rushed to add. "I know this has been a lot, and I know I've hurt you. I just need you to know where I stand." Maya wiped at her eyes with her free hand. "What about the rumors? The people at work?" "That's part of what I wanted to talk to you about," Elijah said, squeezing her hand gently. "I've spent the day making arrangements. If you're willing to give us another chance, I have a plan." Maya raised an eyebrow. "What kind of plan?" "A few things," Elijah said. "First, I've arranged for you to be transferred to our downtown location if you want same job, same hours, but away from the gossip at headquarters. Or, if you'd prefer, I've approved a full scholarship through the company's education fund for you to go back to school, with a living stipend, so you wouldn't have to work nights anymore." Maya stared at him, stunned. "You can do that?" "I'm the CEO," Elijah said with a small smile. "It's one of the perks. I get to decide where our educational funds go, and there's no one more deserving than you. But people will say I got it because we're together," Maya pointed out. "Maybe," Elijah acknowledged. "But you and I will know the truth that you deserve this opportunity regardless of our relationship, and eventually your work will speak for itself." Maya bit her lip, considering his words. It was a generous offer, one that could change her and Zoe's lives dramatically, but something still bothered her. "These solutions still feel like we're hiding," she said finally. "Like you're trying to fix the problem by moving me out of sight." Elijah shook his head. "That's not my intention. I'm trying to give you options, to make this easier on you." He paused, then added, "But you're right that none of this addresses the real issue that I've been hesitant to be open about us. That's why I've already taken steps to change that too." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, wary now. "I called an emergency board meeting this morning," Elijah explained. "I disclosed our relationship formally, made it clear that I would not be ending it, and outlined the steps we would take to ensure there was no conflict of interest, including transferring your supervision to another department entirely." Maya's eyes widened. "You told the board about us? About me?" "Yes," Elijah said simply. "And I told them that if they had a problem with whom I choose to date, they were welcome to find another CEO." "You did what?" Maya gasped. "Elijah, that's your company." "It's my company, yes," he agreed. "But you're my heart, Maya, and a company without a heart isn't worth having." Maya felt tears streaming down her face now, unable to hold them back. The gesture was so grand, so extreme, and yet so perfectly Elijah. "What did they say?" she managed to ask. Elijah grinned. "They said I was being melodramatic, and that as long as we followed proper HR protocols, my personal life was my own business." His expression softened. "But I needed them to know how serious I am about you, about us. No more hiding, no more worrying about what people like Jennifer Daniels might think." "So what now?" Maya asked, her head spinning with everything he had said. "Now," Elijah said, starting the car, "we pick up Zoe from school together. And then, if you're both okay with it, I'd like to take my two favorite people out for dinner. Somewhere people will definitely see us." Maya laughed through her tears. "You're really serious about this, aren't you?" "Completely," Elijah affirmed. "I love you, Maya, and I'm done being afraid to show it." Maya took a deep breath, her heart full to bursting. "I love you too," she whispered, the words she had been holding back for weeks finally breaking free. The smile that spread across Elijah's face was radiant. He leaned across the console and kissed her, gentle but full of promise. "Then let's go get your daughter and start living our life in the open." As they drove to Zoe's school, hands intertwined on the center console, Maya felt a weight lifting from her shoulders. There would still be challenges ahead, still gossip and judgment to face, but they would face it together openly, honestly, proudly. And for the first time, Maya truly believed that might be enough. News travels fast in any company, but when it involves the CEO, it moves at the speed of light. By the time Maya returned to work at Carter Innovations headquarters, she had decided against the transfer. Determined not to run from the gossip, everyone knew that she and Elijah were officially a couple. The whispers didn't stop immediately. If anything, they intensified for a while, with people openly staring as she pushed her cleaning cart through the halls. But there was a different quality to the gossip, now less malicious, more curious, and, increasingly, tinged with a grudging respect. It helped that Elijah was openly affectionate with her when their paths crossed at work, stopping to chat in the hallway or bringing her coffee during her break. He never interfered with her work or showed her special treatment professionally, but he made no effort to hide his feelings either. "People are starting to ask me for tips on how to talk to you," Gloria told her one evening as they were preparing their carts. "Like I have some special insight into the CEO's girlfriend." Maya rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. "What do you tell them?" "I tell them to try cleaning toilets for minimum wage. Then maybe they'd understand what it's like to work for a living," Gloria replied with a wink. "That usually shuts them up." The board's stipulation that Maya report to a different supervisor meant that she no longer cleaned the executive floor, including Elijah's office, which was both a relief and a disappointment. On the one hand, it removed any potential conflict of interest. On the other, she missed their brief encounters during her shift. But they made up for it in other ways. Elijah would often pick her up after work, waiting patiently in the lobby with a cup of tea for her, ignoring the stares of late-working executives. Or she would meet him at his penthouse apartment after dropping Zoe at school, spending precious hours together before she had to leave for her coffee shop job. Those hours in his apartment were a revelation. For the first time in her adult life, Maya felt truly cherished. Elijah treated her like she was precious, taking his time to learn every inch of her body, to discover what made her sigh and moan and cry out his name. In his arms, the differences in their backgrounds faded away, leaving only man and woman, heart and heart. That wasn't to say everything was perfect. There were still awkward moments, painful reminders of the worlds that separated them. The first time Elijah took Maya and Zoe to a charity gala, insisting that they were a package deal, now Maya had felt overwhelmed by the wealth and privilege surrounding her. The designer dress Elijah had bought her felt like a costume, and she had spent much of the evening afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing. "You don't have to come to these things," Elijah had assured her afterward, sensing her discomfort. "I only brought you because I wanted everyone to meet the woman I love. I want to be part of your world," Maya had insisted. "I just need time to adjust." And she was adjusting, slowly but surely. With Elijah's encouragement, Maya had accepted the educational scholarship he had offered, enrolling in night classes at the community college to finally finish her business degree. It meant less time together in the short term, but Elijah was unfailingly supportive, often helping her study or watching Zoe so she could attend late classes. For her part, Zoe had taken to their new life with the adaptability of childhood. She adored Elijah, who treated her with the same attention and respect he showed her mother. He never tried to replace her absent father, a man who had disappeared before Zoe was even born, but he filled the role of male role model in her life with natural ease. "Are you going to marry my mom?" Zoe asked one evening as Elijah helped her with her science homework. They were sitting at the kitchen table in Maya's apartment, where Elijah now spent most evenings. Maya, who had been washing dishes at the sink, nearly dropped a plate. "Zoe," she admonished, her cheeks burning. But Elijah just smiled at the little girl. "I'd like to, someday," he said honestly. "If she'll have me, and if you're okay with it, of course." Zoe considered this seriously. I think I'd be okay with it, she decided. But only if we can get a bigger apartment. My room is too small for all my books. Elijah laughed, ruffling her hair. I think that could be arranged. Later, when Zoe was in bed, Maya brought up the conversation. You know she's going to hold you to that apartment upgrade, she teased, curling against him on the couch. Actually, Elijah said, his tone suddenly serious, I've been thinking about that, about us living together. Maya sat up straighter, looking at him. You have? Elijah nodded. This apartment is too small for the three of us. And my place is nice, but it's not really set up for a family. I was thinking maybe we could look for something new, together. Something that would be ours, not mine, or yours. The idea both thrilled and terrified Maya. Are you sure? She asked. That's a big step. I'm sure, Elijah said without hesitation. I love waking up next to you on the weekends. I want to do it every day. Maya smiled, touched by his certainty. I'd like that too, she admitted. But I can't afford half of anywhere you'd want to live. We don't have to split it equally, Elijah pointed out. We could do it proportionally based on our incomes. Maya raised an eyebrow. So I'd contribute about 0.001%, and you'd cover the rest? Elijah laughed. Something like that. Or, he added more seriously, we could just think of it as our money, not yours and mine. I don't need separate accounts or split bills to know you're contributing, Maya. I see how hard you work, how much you do for Zoe, for us. Maya was quiet for a long moment, thinking. The idea of relying on Elijah financially made her uncomfortable. She had been independent for so long, had worked so hard to provide for herself and Zoe. But his words about seeing her contributions differently resonated. Let's look for a place, she said finally. But I insist on contributing what I can. I need to feel like I'm bringing something to this relationship besides just myself. Elijah pulled her closer, kissing her forehead. You bring everything, he whispered. But we'll do it your way. 3 months later, they moved into a spacious 3-bedroom apartment in a family-friendly neighborhood halfway between Carter Innovations and Zoe's school. It wasn't as luxurious as Elijah's penthouse, but it was far nicer than anywhere Maya had ever lived. Zoe had her own room with a reading nook and built-in bookshelves that Elijah had installed himself, much to her delight. It wasn't always smooth sailing. Maya still worked nights, though now only 3 times a week as she focused on her studies. Elijah still had business trips and late meetings. They argued sometimes about money, about time, about the normal frictions of 2 adults building a life together. But they always found their way back to each other, always remembered what mattered most. And as the months passed, their relationship deepened, strengthened by the challenges they had overcome and the life they were building together. One evening, nearly a year after they had first met at that restaurant table, Maya came home from her night class to find the apartment unusually quiet. Zoe was at a sleepover, and Elijah had texted that he would be waiting for her with dinner. But instead of the takeout containers she expected, Maya found a trail of rose petals leading from the front door through the living room and toward their bedroom. Smiling, she followed the path, her heart beating faster with each step. In their bedroom, Elijah was waiting, the room lit only by dozens of candles. He was standing in the center, looking nervous but determined, a small velvet box in his hand. Elijah, Maya breathed, stopping in the doorway. What is this? This, he said, crossing to her and taking her hand, is me, finally doing what I should have done months ago. He led her into the room. Then, still holding her hand, dropped to one knee. Maya felt tears spring to her eyes, knowing what was coming, but still scarcely able to believe it. Maya Jackson, Elijah began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. When you sat down at my table a year ago, I thought it was a mistake. Now I know it was fate. He opened the box, revealing a stunning but tasteful diamond ring. "You have changed my life in ways I never imagined possible. You've taught me about courage, about honesty, about what really matters." Maya was crying now, tears of joy streaming down her face. "I promise to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of you," Elijah continued, "to love you and Zoe with everything I have, to be your partner in all things." He paused, taking a deep breath. "Maya, will you marry me?" For a moment, Maya was transported back to that first night, to the embarrassment of realizing she was at the wrong table, to the unexpected connection she had felt with this stranger, to all the doubt and fear and joy that had followed. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Elijah, I'll marry you." His face broke into a radiant smile as he slid the ring onto her finger. Then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her with all the passion and tenderness that had defined their relationship from the beginning. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "And I love you," Maya replied, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. The man, not the CEO. They stood there in the candlelight, holding each other, two people who had found each other by accident but chosen each other on purpose, again and again. Two people who had crossed the barriers of class and circumstance to build something real and lasting. Two people who were proof that sometimes the wrong table could be exactly the right place to be. Maya stared at her reflection in the full-length mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The woman looking back at her was dressed in a simple but elegant ivory gown, its clean lines emphasizing her slender frame. Her hair was swept up in an intricate arrangement of curls, tiny white flowers woven throughout, and a sheer veil cascaded down her back. "You look like a princess, Mom," Zoe said, twirling in her own pale blue flower girl dress. At 9 years old now, she was growing so fast, losing the baby roundness in her face, gaining confidence and personality with each passing day. "Thanks, baby," Maya replied, smoothing non-existent wrinkles from her dress. "You look pretty amazing yourself." There was a knock at the door, and Maya's mother entered, already dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. "Oh, my baby," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You're so beautiful." Maya smiled, feeling tears threatening her own composure. "Don't start, Mom, or you'll make me cry." Her mother laughed, coming to stand beside her, adjusting the veil slightly. "I never thought I'd see this day," she admitted. "Not because you're not deserving of every happiness, but because you've been so independent for so long. I worried you'd never let anyone in again after what happened with Zoe's father." Maya glanced at her daughter, who was admiring her flower girl basket on the other side of the room, out of earshot. "I didn't think I would either," she said softly. "But Elijah, he's different. He sees me, Mom, really sees me." "I know he does," her mother agreed, squeezing her hand. "That man looks at you like you hung the moon and stars." Another knock interrupted them, and Maya's friend Tasha poked her head in. "5 minutes, bride-to-be," she announced. "Your groom is pacing a hole in the carpet out there." Maya grinned. "He's nervous?" "Terrified," Tasha confirmed with a laugh. "Apparently facing down a room full of board members is nothing compared to waiting for you to walk down the aisle." "Tell him I'm coming," Maya said, "and that I love him." As Tasha left to deliver the message, Maya took one last look at herself in the mirror. So much had changed in the 1.5 years since she had first met Elijah. She had completed her associate's degree and was now working toward her bachelor's in business management. She had quit her night job at Carter Innovations, accepting a day position in the company's community outreach program instead, a job she had earned on her own merits, despite Elijah's offer to help. And today, she was marrying the man she loved, surrounded by friends and family, in the garden of the Carter family estate. It wasn't a large wedding. Despite Elijah's prominence in the business world, They had kept the guest list intimate, just close friends and family, a few colleagues they had grown close to. Maya had insisted on paying for her own dress and for Zoe's flower girl outfit, a point of pride that Elijah had respected without question. "Ready?" her mother asked, offering her arm. Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. "Ready." The garden was transformed by late afternoon sunlight, golden rays filtering through the trees and casting a warm glow over the rows of white chairs and the flower-covered arch where Elijah waited. As Maya stepped onto the white runner that served as an aisle, the small string quartet began to play. All eyes turned to her, but Maya saw only Elijah. He stood tall and handsome in his tuxedo, his eyes finding hers immediately, his face lighting up with a joy so pure it made her heart ache. Beside him, his best man, his childhood friend Thomas, gave her a warm smile and a subtle thumbs up. Zoe went first, seriously performing her flower girl duties, carefully dropping rose petals along the path. Then Maya began her walk, her mother on one side, her arm linked through hers. With each step, memories of her journey with Elijah flashed through her mind, that first accidental meeting, their stolen conversations in his office, their first real date, the challenges they had faced and overcome together. Every step bringing her closer to the future they would build. When she reached the altar, her mother kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Elijah's, a symbolic gesture of blessing and transition. Elijah's fingers closed around hers, warm and steady, and Maya felt the last of her nerves fade away. "You are breathtaking," he whispered as they turned to face the officiant. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. They had written their own vows, words that spoke to their unique journey and the love that had grown between them despite all odds. "Maya," Elijah began when it was his turn, his voice strong and clear. "When you sat at my table that night, it was the best mistake anyone has ever made. You walked into my perfectly ordered, perfectly empty life and filled it with color and chaos and love. You challenged me to be better, to be braver, to be more honest with the world and with myself." He squeezed her hands gently. "I promise to spend every day of our life together showing you that you are valued, you are respected, you are loved not for what you do or where you come from, but for who you are. My partner, my best friend, my heart." Maya blinked back tears as she began her own vows. "Elijah, if someone had told me 2 years ago that I would be standing here today, marrying the CEO of Carter Innovations, I would have thought they were crazy." A ripple of gentle laughter went through the guests. "But life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. You saw me when I felt invisible. You respected me when others dismissed me. You loved me when I was afraid to be loved." She took a deep breath, meeting his gaze steadily. "I promise to continue challenging you when you need it, supporting you when you falter, and loving you through whatever comes our way. I promise to be your safe harbor in the storm, your companion in joy, and your partner in all things. Not because you're Elijah Carter, CEO, but because you're Elijah, the man who holds my heart." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden as they exchanged rings, a simple platinum band for Elijah, and for Maya, a delicate band that matched her engagement ring. "By the power vested in me," the officiant concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Elijah cradled Maya's face in his hands with infinite tenderness, looking into her eyes for a long moment, before lowering his lips to hers in a kiss that was both sweet promise and passionate devotion. The guests erupted in applause, and Zoe rushed forward to throw her arms around both of them, creating a family embrace that made Maya's heart swell with happiness. As they turned to face their friends and family as husband and wife, Maya caught sight of Jennifer and Robert Daniels among the guests. Jennifer gave her a small, somewhat embarrassed smile, and Maya nodded in acknowledgement. Not everyone had been supportive of their relationship. There were still those who whispered about the CEO and the cleaning lady, but today, in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the man beside her, the child hugging her waist, and the future stretching out before them, a future they would build together, day by day, moment by moment. 3 years into their marriage, Maya woke one morning to find Elijah's side of the bed empty and cold. She frowned, glancing at the clock. 5:30 a.m., earlier than even he usually rose. She slipped out of bed, pulling on her robe, and padded through their home in search of her husband. They had moved from the apartment to a house a year after the wedding, a beautiful but not ostentatious home in a diverse neighborhood with excellent schools for Zoe. It was a compromise between Elijah's wealth and Maya's desire for a normal life for their family. Maya found Elijah in his home office, still in his pajamas, staring at his laptop with a troubled expression. "Hey," she said softly from the doorway. "Couldn't sleep?" Elijah looked up, his face relaxing slightly at the sight of her. "Sorry, did I wake you?" "No," she assured him, moving to perch on the edge of his desk. "But I got lonely in that big bed all by myself. Everything okay?" Elijah sighed, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "Not really. I just got an email from the board. There's a problem with our quarterly numbers." Maya frowned. Elijah rarely brought work problems home, one of the healthy boundaries they had established early in their relationship, which meant this must be serious. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that means I'll need to make some significant cuts to meet our projected earnings," Elijah said grimly. "The board is concerned." Maya knew what that meant. Though Elijah was the CEO and the face of Carter Innovations, he still answered to a board of directors who had become increasingly focused on short-term profits over the past year. "What are you thinking?" she asked, recognizing the conflict in his eyes. "The easiest solution would be to outsource our facilities maintenance," Elijah admitted, not meeting her gaze. "It would save millions annually." Maya felt a chill run through her. She no longer worked in that department, but she still had friends there: Gloria, who had been promoted to supervisor; Tasha, who had moved from accounting to human resources, and dozens of others who depended on those jobs. "The cleaning staff," she said softly. "The same issue from when we first started dating." Elijah nodded, looking miserable. "The board raised it again specifically. Said I was letting personal feelings interfere with business decisions." "Are you?" Maya asked, not accusingly, just seeking to understand. "Maybe," Elijah admitted. "I keep thinking about what you said to me back then, about how my father believed everyone who helped build the company deserved to share in its success." "I remember," Maya said, reaching for his hand. "I also remember telling you to listen to your gut. What's it saying now?" Elijah squeezed her fingers. "That there has to be another way. That sacrificing the livelihoods of loyal employees for a temporary stock boost is wrong." Maya nodded, pride swelling in her chest. This was the man she had fallen in love with, the one who saw value in all people, who measured success by more than just dollar signs. "Then we'll find another way," she said firmly. "We?" Elijah raised an eyebrow. "Yes, we," Maya insisted. "I may not be an executive, but I do have a business degree now, thanks to you. And I know the company from a perspective most of your advisors don't, from the ground up." A slow smile spread across Elijah's face. "You're amazing, you know that?" "So, I've been told," Maya replied with a grin. "Now, coffee first, then brainstorming." Over the next week, they spent their evenings at the dining room table, papers spread out everywhere, looking for alternatives to the sweeping cuts the board was pushing for. Maya's experience as a former night janitor gave her insights into inefficiencies and waste that no consultant report could capture. Her current role in community outreach had taught her the value of public goodwill and employee loyalty. Together, they crafted a different approach, targeted reductions in executive bonuses starting with Elijah's own, a renegotiation of vendor contracts, a more efficient supply chain management system, and an innovative profit-sharing program that would actually increase productivity while reducing overall costs. "The board won't like cutting executive compensation," Elijah warned as they finalized their proposal. "They'll like failing to meet earnings expectations even less," Maya pointed out. "And this plan gets us there without sacrificing the company's soul." "The company's soul?" Elijah repeated, smiling at her choice of words. "That's exactly what it is. What my father built wasn't just a business, it was a community, people who believed in something together." "Then let's fight for it," Maya said, determination in her voice. "Together." The board meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. Maya took the day off from her own job to wait at home, unable to focus on anything else while Elijah presented their plan. She had offered to come with him to speak to her own experience, but they had decided it would be better if Elijah handled this battle alone. The board already thought she had too much influence over him. Her presence might only reinforce that perception. So she waited, alternating between nervous pacing and trying to distract herself with household tasks. Zoe, now 12 and perceptive beyond her years, noticed her mother's anxiety when she came home from school. "Is it about Dad's meeting?" she asked, dropping her backpack by the door. Maya had long ago stopped being surprised by how much Zoe picked up on. "Yes," she admitted. "It's an important one." "He'll convince them?" Zoe said with the absolute confidence of a child who believed her stepfather could do anything. "Dad always finds a way to make things right." Maya smiled, pulling her daughter into a hug. "When did you get so wise?" "Must be all those books you guys keep buying me," Zoe replied with a grin. It was after 6, when they finally heard Elijah's key in the lock. Maya rushed to the entryway, Zoe right behind her, both of them searching his face for clues. Elijah looked exhausted, his tie loosened, his usually perfect hair slightly disheveled. "Well?" she demanded when he didn't immediately speak. A slow smile spread across his face. They approved it, every part of it, even the executive compensation reductions. Maya let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob, and threw herself into his arms. Elijah caught her, lifting her slightly off her feet as he hugged her tight. "They didn't just approve it," he continued as he set her down. "They were impressed. Said it showed the kind of innovative thinking that made Carter Innovations successful in the first place." "I told you Dad would do it," Zoe exclaimed, joining their hug. "I didn't do it alone," Elijah said, wrapping an arm around his stepdaughter's shoulders. "This was a team effort. Your mom was the real brains behind this plan." Maya shook her head. "We did it together," she insisted. "That's what matters." Later that night, after Zoe had gone to bed, Maya and Elijah sat on their back porch, sharing a bottle of wine in celebration. "There's something else I didn't mention earlier," Elijah said, his expression turning serious again. "Something the board chair said to me after the meeting." Maya tensed slightly. "What was it?" "He said that I've changed since I married you, that I see the company differently now." Elijah took a sip of his wine, then continued, "He meant it as criticism, I think. That I've gone soft." Maya frowned. "And what do you think?" Elijah considered the question. "I think he's right that I've changed, but not in the way he meant." He reached for her hand, interlacing their fingers. "You haven't made me soft, Maya. You've made me stronger. You've helped me see that true leadership isn't just about numbers on a balance sheet, it's about the people whose lives are affected by those numbers." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. Even after 3 years of marriage, Elijah's ability to express his feelings so openly still moved her deeply. "I was afraid, you know," she admitted quietly. When you first told me about the board's demand, part of me wondered if you might choose the easy path this time. I considered it, Elijah confessed, for about 5 seconds. Then I remembered what you told me the first time we discussed this, back when we were barely even friends. He smiled at the memory. You asked me what my gut was telling me, and when I said it was a bad idea, you told me that was my answer. I remember, Maya said softly. You've always seen the best in me, Elijah continued, even when I couldn't see it myself. Maya leaned over to kiss him, tasting wine and gratitude and love on his lips. You always were, she whispered. I just helped you remember. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their wine, enjoying the cool evening air and each other's company. After a few minutes, Elijah spoke again. I've been thinking about the future, he said. About Carter Innovations and where we go from here. And, Maya prompted when he didn't immediately continue. And I think it might be time for some bigger changes, Elijah said. The kind of changes my father would have made if he were still running things. Maya raised an eyebrow. What kind of changes? I want to create an employee ownership program, Elijah explained, enthusiasm building in his voice. Give every worker, from the executives to the night janitors, a stake in the company's success. Make them true partners, not just employees. Maya stared at him. That's a huge undertaking. Probably, Elijah agreed with a shrug. But after today, I think I have more leverage than I realized, and it's the right thing to do. It is, Maya agreed. And if anyone can make it happen, it's you. Elijah's eyes held hers, serious and intent.
Boss!
He corrected. It's us. I couldn't do any of this without you, Maya. You're my conscience, my courage, my heart. Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. From the nervous janitor who had accidentally sat at his table to the confident woman who now helped shape company policy, it had been a remarkable journey, fueled by a love neither of them had expected but both had embraced fully. Partners, she said, raising her glass in a toast. In all things, Elijah agreed, touching his glass to hers. Always. 5 years later, Maya adjusted her blazer nervously, checking her reflection one last time in the mirrored wall of the elevator. At 40, she had gained confidence in her appearance, embracing the subtle lines around her eyes as marks of a life well lived, a life filled with laughter. Her hair was styled in a professional bob, and the simple but elegant pantsuit she wore had been a gift from Elijah for this very occasion. The elevator doors opened onto the executive floor of Carter Innovations headquarters, a floor she had once cleaned in the middle of the night, and now walked with purpose during daylight hours. Good morning, Mrs. Carter. The receptionist greeted her with a warm smile. They're waiting for you in the boardroom. Thank you, Diane, Maya replied, returning the smile. As she walked the familiar corridor toward the boardroom, Maya couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her here. After successfully implementing the employee ownership program against significant resistance from several key board members, Elijah had gradually shifted Carter Innovations' focus to balance profit with purpose. The company now had industry-leading benefits for all employees, a robust education and advancement program, and a commitment to ethical business practices that had made it a model for corporate responsibility. Through it all, Maya had continued her own career growth, completing her bachelor's degree and then a master's in business administration. She had risen through the ranks in the company's community outreach division, eventually becoming its director. Her unique perspective, shaped by her experiences at both the bottom and top of the corporate ladder, made her particularly effective at bridging gaps between management and workers. Today marked the culmination of both their journeys. The day Elijah would announce his planned transition, and Maya would step into a new role that neither of them could have imagined 8 years ago, when she first sat at his table by mistake. Maya paused outside the boardroom, took a deep breath, and pushed open the door. Inside, the board members were already seated around the large table, with Elijah at the head. He looked up as she entered, his eyes warming at the sight of her, still filled with the same love and admiration that had sustained them through challenges and triumphs alike. "Ah, here she is," Elijah said, rising to greet her. "Thank you all for your patience." Maya took the empty seat to Elijah's right, nodding greetings to the board members. Some faces were familiar from years past, while others were newer additions who had come on board as the company evolved. "Now that Maya has joined us, I'd like to formally present the succession plan I've been discussing with each of you individually," Elijah began. "As you know, I've been CEO of Carter Innovations for 15 years now, following in my father's footsteps. It has been the honor of my life to lead this company, to build on his legacy and create something that I believe truly makes a difference in the world." He paused, looking around the table. "But all good things evolve. In 6 months, on the anniversary of the company's founding, I will be stepping down as CEO to take on the role of executive chairman." There were nods around the table. This part of the announcement had been carefully prepared over many months, with key stakeholders already informed. "What I haven't yet shared with all of you is who I believe should succeed me in the CEO role," Elijah continued. "After careful consideration and consultation with our major investors and partners, I am recommending Maya Carter for the position." Despite the fact that many in the room had suspected this might be the recommendation, there was still a ripple of reaction, raised eyebrows, exchanged glances, a few smiles of approval, and 1 or 2 frowns of concern. "I understand this may seem an unusual choice to some," Elijah acknowledged. "Maya is my wife, and there will undoubtedly be questions about nepotism and conflict of interest." "With all due respect, Elijah," one of the older board members interjected, "it's not just the personal connection that raises concerns. Mrs. Carter has only been in executive management for 4 years. That's a remarkably swift ascension to CEO of a company this size." Maya felt a flash of the old insecurity, the feeling that she didn't belong, that she was still just the night janitor pretending to be something more. But she had learned to push past those feelings, to stand in her truth. "You're absolutely right, Mr. Thornton," she said, addressing the board member directly. "My path has been unconventional, but I would argue that my varied experience within this company, from maintaining its facilities to directing its community impact, gives me a unique perspective that traditional career paths don't provide." Another board member, a woman who had been appointed 2 years earlier, spoke up. "I've worked with Maya on the Community Investment Committee. Her ability to see issues from multiple angles, to balance business needs with human concerns, is exceptional. And her leadership of the Employee Ownership Initiative has resulted in record retention rates and productivity improvements." Nevertheless, Mr. Thornton persisted. "The optics of appointing the CEO's wife as his successor are problematic. Which is why," Elijah smoothly interjected, "I'm proposing a 6-month transition period with enhanced board oversight. Maya will step into the role of Chief Operating Officer immediately, working directly with me and with each of you to demonstrate her capabilities. At the end of that period, the board will take a vote of confidence before the CEO transition is finalized." The ensuing discussion was vigorous but respectful. Maya spoke when appropriate, addressing concerns directly and outlining her vision for the company's future, a vision that honored its past while embracing new possibilities. She didn't shy away from the difficult questions, including those about how she would handle being Elijah's boss in his new role as executive chairman. "Our personal relationship has always been separate from our professional one," she explained. "We've practiced that separation for years, as many of you have witnessed. But beyond that, we share a fundamental alignment on the core values that should guide this company: innovation, balanced with responsibility, profit with purpose, excellence with humanity." By the end of the 3-hour meeting, Maya could sense a shift in the room. Not everyone was fully convinced that would take time and results, but the majority seemed willing to give her the opportunity to prove herself. "Unless there are further questions," Elijah said, looking around the table, "I'd like to call for a vote on the interim appointment and transition plan." The vote passed 9-3, a solid majority that Maya knew represented significant trust she would need to earn fully in the coming months. As the board members filed out, offering congratulations of varying enthusiasm, Elijah hung back, waiting until they were alone. "So, COO Carter," he said with a proud smile, "how does it feel?" "Terrifying," Maya admitted. "Exhilarating, surreal." Elijah laughed, pulling her into a quick embrace. "You were brilliant in there. Did you see Thornton's face when you quoted his own strategic plan back to him?" Maya smiled at the memory. "I did my homework." "You always do," Elijah said softly, his expression growing more serious. "Maya, you know I meant every word I said in there. There is no one I trust more to lead this company, to build on what my father started, and what we've continued together." "I know," Maya said, squeezing his hand, "and I won't let you down." "You couldn't if you tried," Elijah assured her. "Now, shall we go tell Zoe the news? She made me promise to call her the minute it was official." Maya nodded, gathering her notes from the table. She's probably sitting in her dorm room refreshing her phone every 30 seconds. At 17, Zoe was now a freshman at college, studying business and social policy with plans to join the family company after graduation. She had grown into a remarkable young woman, compassionate and driven, with her mother's determination and her stepfather's strategic mind. As they walked together toward Elijah's offices soon to be Maya's, they passed the cleaning staff, preparing for their afternoon rounds. Maya stopped to greet them by name, asking about families, remembering details of their lives in a way that wasn't calculated but simply part of who she was. "You never forget where you came from, do you?" Elijah observed quietly as they continued walking. "How could I?" Maya replied. "It's part of me, always will be." When they reached the office, Elijah closed the door and pulled out his phone to call Zoe on speaker. As they waited for her to answer, Maya looked around the space that held so many memories, their first real conversation, her nervously cleaning while he worked late, the moment he had asked her to dinner, all the turning points that had led to this day. "Hello?" Zoe's voice came through the speaker, breathless with anticipation. "Dad? Mom? How did it go?" "Well," Elijah began, winking at Maya, "you are now speaking to the new Chief Operating Officer of Carter Innovations." Zoe's squeal of delight was so loud they had to hold the phone away from their ears. "I knew it! I knew they'd approve it! Mom, that's amazing!" "Thank you, sweetheart," Maya said, her heart full. "It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm ready for it." "You've been ready for years," Zoe declared, with the absolute confidence of someone who had watched her mother rise from night janitor to company executive through sheer determination and talent. "Both of you are going to make Grandpa Carter so proud." Though Zoe had never met Elijah's father, she had grown up hearing stories about him, about his vision for a company that valued all its people. In many ways, she was the living bridge between past and future, between the Carter legacy and the new path Maya and Elijah were forging together. After chatting with Zoe for a few more minutes, promising to celebrate properly when she came home for fall break, they ended the call. Elijah turned to Maya, taking both her hands in his. "8 years ago you sat down at my table by mistake," he said softly. "Best mistake of my life." "Mine too," Maya replied, remembering how frightened she had been that night, how sure that nothing would come of their conversation. "I never imagined we'd end up here." "I did," Elijah said with a smile. "Well, maybe not exactly here, but I knew from that first evening that you were special, that you would change my life if I was lucky enough to be part of yours." Maya leaned in to kiss him, a gentle brush of lips filled with years of shared history and love. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered, "even when I didn't believe in myself." "Always," Elijah promised, "from that first night to forever." As they stood there in the office where their story had truly begun, Maya thought about all the twists and turns that had brought them to this moment, the accidental meeting, the secret relationship, the challenges they had faced and overcome together. From night janitor to CEO, from strangers to soulmates, their journey had been anything but ordinary. But then, the best love stories rarely were. Sometimes they started with a mistake, sitting at the wrong table, talking to the wrong person, only to discover that it wasn't a mistake at all, but the universe conspiring to bring two hearts together in the most unexpected way. For Maya and Elijah, that wrong table had turned out to be exactly the right place to begin there, forever. And now, as they prepared to write the next chapter of their story together, Maya knew with absolute certainty that the best was yet to come.